Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. So I have a couple housekeeping items to go through first before I get into my presentation for the nomination info session for the 2025 MARTY Awards. If you can just mute yourself for the remainder of the presentation, other you can unmute yourself when we get into the Q&A portion, and then you can more than welcome to ask any questions that you might have. And during this time, if you have any questions that pop up, please feel free to add them to the chat. My lovely colleague Susan, that is off camera right now to my left, is going to be going through the questions, and she can pop in and ask me anything that might be of relevance as I go through the presentation. Okay, and now we'll get started. So, couple of things that I'll go through first for the agenda today is what is the Mississauga Arts Awards? We're going to talk a little about an overview of what the MARTYS is, first steps and important dates and deadlines, as well as eligibility for the awards. Then we're going to get into what type of awards there are, including the Artistic Excellence Awards and the types of disciplines that we have in the categories, the selection process for the awards, and into our Community Arts Awards, which is the ones that you can see on the screen here. Another note as well for the slides, we are going to be sending these out to everybody, so no worry about trying to write everything down very quickly. We'll be sending these out to everybody who's registered for the session today. Okay. We'll also getting into nomination application requirements, along, as I mentioned earlier, with frequently asked questions. And then if we have time, we're going to review a nomination web form so you can see an overview of what the requirements are laid out in the web form guidelines. And then we'll get into a Q&A session, and then that will then conclude our end of our information session today. So what is the Mississauga Arts Awards? The Mississauga Arts Awards are the Mississauga Arts Council's annual celebration that we hold every year, and it recognizes the outstanding individual and organizational contributions to the arts and culture activity in Mississauga. Each year, annually, we acknowledge honorees' work who has helped transform and advance artistic communities through Artistic Excellence and Community Arts Awards. And excitingly, this year, it's our 30th anniversary, so it's going to be a really, really wonderful awards presentation in June. I believe it's June 19th, 2025. So it's going to be an amazing year for this. So this is our links to our nomination forms, but I'm not going to open them up and get into them just yet. This is just more of a referral slide that you can go back to. But the big thing I want to really emphasize here is going to our guidelines. So everything that can be found in this presentation, including the forms, more details, answers to frequently asked questions, all of that is at macarts.ca/MARTYS. So that is going to be kind of your encompassing of all the details that you need. And we recommend going to that website for all of the details. So a couple important dates and deadlines. So our nominations are now open. Yay, very exciting. They opened on January 9th, and then our info session today, of course, you're here, which is great to have you. And then they close this April 14th, 2025 at 5:00 p.m. It's important to note, there will be no deadline extensions this year. Late or incomplete submissions will not be accepted or considered. So we really do encourage you to start early. We do recommend probably starting to gather materials now. Start thinking about this. Start thinking about what your nomination and everything that encompasses what that looks like early. So that way you can have more than enough ample time to get things in before the deadline. Anything regarding questions or things after you review the guidelines thoroughly can be forwarded to martyawards@macarts.ca. But please note, we review that email during business hours, which is Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we recommend you getting things done early and not submitting nights over the weekend of the deadline. That way everything is done and no stress about it. So next, the finalists will be announced in May of 2025. And our cocktail party, which is very fun this year, finalists, is also going to be in May of 2025. So we're noting that right now. So that way people can make ample plans ahead of time, that once finalists gets announced and you potentially you're a finalist, you get contacted, then the cocktail party will happen shortly after. And then about a month later, June 19th is when the awards is presented. And a quick note, if you potentially are, a finalist, you are required to go to the awards on June 19th. Some questions that have arose in the past is if, let's say, I'm traveling or something has happened or I'm on a film set filming a movie, what do I do? Right? I can't attend the award ceremony. If that is the case, and we've had cases in the past, you would have to have somebody step in your place to, present, possibly receive the award on your behalf, right? But that can be figured out in the future. Okay, next. So eligibility. So who can actually apply to the Mississauga Arts Awards? It's open to all professional artists and arts groups who are residents of the city of Mississauga, have had a significant contribution to Mississauga, or have made, a significant connection to Mississauga, or have made a major contribution to the arts within Mississauga. So I do want to clarify what that means, because some people kind of get a little confused by that. So if you live here, great, you qualify, right? Like you live here in Mississauga. But we also the jurors strongly want to see your connection to Mississauga. So do you work here? Do you have exhibitions here? Do you work with other artists here? Do you do, filming? Like you have to have a strong connection to this city in your application in some encompassing way, right? So, and then on that note, each award has its own set of requirements and eligibility criteria. You do not need to be a member of MAC to submit a nomination. However, if you are selected as a finalist, you'll be required to join MAC as a member, and you can do so online at macarts.ca/membership, and individual memberships cost $40 a year. And we also have lots of great benefits, so we highly recommend that you do. Okay, so, and then another note, so this is particularly for people who might have applied as a finalist in previous years, or received one. So if you received an award or certificate of excellence in any of the following past 3 years, so that's 2024, 2023, or 2022, you are not eligible to be nominated for 2025 MARTY Award. If you are selected as a finalist in the past 3 years, but did not receive our MARTY Award or Certificate of Excellence, we encourage you to please submit for this year's awards. That would be the 2025 MARTY Awards. So if that's a little confusing, basically, if you won in the past 3 years, you can't win again this year. That's not okay. But if you're a finalist and you didn't receive an award in the past 3 years, yeah, please do apply. We highly encourage it. Okay. So these are all kind of more details. I'm not going to read out every single one. That is all in the guidelines, as I mentioned earlier. But a couple key things. So a nominee can be considered only one category per year. So we highly encourage, selecting one discipline. So let's say you're a visual artist, but you're also a musician, right? We would encourage you to apply one of those categories. So you would either pick, let's say, music solo vocalist or visual art. You have to decide on one. Some people have tricky with that because a lot of people have lots of skills in different areas. But our recommendation on that fact is to submit something that you feel confident is a good enough application to the jury that they can see, yes, they have a significant relevance to visual arts and work here, then go with that, right? That's what we would recommend to do. We've already covered previous nominated candidates and finalists. Yes, you can apply again. Quick note here, only nominations submitted through the online form will be accepted. We don't accept nominations via mail or email. It has to go through the web form, which is why we would encourage submitting early, or at least making sure you have all of your materials ready in order for submitting for the deadline. All nominations also must have contact information for one reference. I'll get into what looks like as a reference later on in the presentation, but you must have that ready as well. And we've already talked about late and incomplete ones as well. Okay. So, exciting fun. This is what the actual awards look like. So, this is our Artist Excellence Award for established artists. So, this is an artist who has had 5 or more years of experience. They demonstrate strong activity, as we talked about, within the Mississauga arts community. They potentially have a history of public exhibition, performance, opportunities, publication, if that is relevant to the category that they're submitting to. And also, they have been recognized by peers as a professional in their artistic discipline. So, this could be other forms of awards, other forms of, as you mentioned, publications. It has to show a, credible CV that you're presenting to the jury that shows that you've been an active professional artist over 5 years. So, that's one of the main categories. And this is the one that would receive an actual beautiful MARTY award. This is the one for emerging artists. So an emerging artist, they have to be a minimum of 18 years of age. And that is included for all categories here. You must be minimum 18 years of age. And they are emerging artists who are more in the early stages of their career. So it has to be less than 5 years of experience in their artistic discipline. And then they've demonstrated exceptional talent and growth in their accomplishments, unique artist expression and commitment to their art. And as we throughout this whole thing, they have to show a relevance and a work and, to Mississauga. Yeah. And then this is will be a framed certificate of excellence for the awards. So these are all of our categories. I'll talk about the couple changes that happened for this year, but for the most part, it is pretty much the same as last year. So the last year we had performing arts, which included theater arts and dance in one. This was to help encourage submissions for the category and for the category to go through. This is also due to previous years of the pandemic impacting those areas. So this way we combined the two in order for the category to go through. This year, we're splitting them back because we've had a lot of interest in these categories. So now it's going to be dance alone. So if you're a dancer, you're a choreographer, you have a dance group, you would definitely apply for that category. Next one is film/video arts that are screen-based works. And the definition of screen-based works is in the guidelines if you want more clarification on that. That can be, a producer, cinematographer, actor. They can be short or long form. And I do want to clarify a little bit on what you would apply if you're looking like your work samples for this category, because we had a lot of questions in the past. For this, let's say you are a part of a movie, right? And you are particularly the director of that said movie. You would apply in a work sample category with, let's say a 2-minute long clip from that movie and put in your notes in a Word document or PDF or whatever it is that you were the director of this movie, right? You would put down your, contribution to that film, right? Making it very clear to the jury that you were director in said film, or potentially you acted in as well, whatever it is, and you would make that very clear. And that goes with all of the disciplines here, is that making sure what your contribution to the work samples was. But we'll get more into that a little later. Next is literary arts. This is, as you can see here, poetry, short stories, fiction, nonfiction, all this types of stuff that's been published works would be your work samples for this. Music group is like a band or, vocal or non-vocal. It can be either one. And this would be an ensemble in any genre of music. Next is music instrumental. So it can be something like a saxophonist, violinist, pianist, something like that. And it can be individual or a group. So it could be, like an orchestra, something like that. Yeah. Okay. And then next would be Mississauga vocalist. So this could be, it's really focused on vocal performance, but also, any type of music along those lines for more of like an individual performer, right? Like that would be the genre for this. Next would be theater arts. So again, we're splitting dance and theater again. Theater would be public live performances. This could be like theater, puppetry, comedy, improv, main stuff that's like on stage, right? Or potentially like in the parks, right? Like theater in the parks performances. This is also an option here too. Cool. And then the next one would be multimedia arts. That is more digital illustration, graphic design, animation, 2D/3D models, video game development, new media, mixed media works is the best example of putting it. And then, of course, we have visual arts. So that would be more traditional types of forms like printmaking, drawing, sculpture, photography, watercolor, like all those types of things. Great. And then this is more of the actual process of what this work looks like in terms of like the jury. So what happens when you submit a nomination is that this gets sent through to us, and then we compile everything and then send it to an independent jury. So the independent juries are all composed of discipline-specific artists, arts professionals, and community leaders that are all made for that specific discipline. So you submit to visual arts, it goes to visual arts sector leaders, right? And then they review all of the nominations that go through. And then they decide on the finalists and the final winner. So on that note, though, submitting a nomination does not guarantee you will be selected as a finalist. That has to go through the process to the jury. And then if you are selected as a finalist, you'll be contacted in May of 2025. So on a little bit of kind of overview, nominations must achieve a minimum benchmark score from the jury to be considered for an award. This is part of the process. And then the jury ends up selecting a minimum of 2 or a maximum of 5 finalists per category, and then the winner in that category, And the decision of the jury is final and confidential. So if you, for example, are looking for feedback from the jury, that is not something that we provide, but we can give you feedback on the elements of your application. So let's say if you were looking for feedback on your CV, we could potentially tell you there's too many links, there's too much going on here, make it clear and forward to the jury. We can tell you about the elements, technical elements, and kind of that type of thing from your application, but we're not going to give you, feedback from like, oh, this could have been better, like their work was not very good. Like we're not going to say stuff like that, right? That's up to jury. It's confidential. And then, as we talked about before earlier, please submit to one artistic category. And you can only submit to one. So ensure that everything is relevant to the category of that nomination. Any questions so far? No? Okay, I'll just keep going then. Now we're into our Community Arts Awards. So this is, a wonderful initiative that is done every year. We have a robust ecosystem, and, the arts is really full of wonderful volunteers, patrons, lifetime achievers, community arts groups, collectives, list goes on. So we want to be able to recognize those people. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what arts awards categories are included in this. So let's get into that, and I'll come back to this. So we have our community arts group / collective of the year. This is for a group that has made an outstanding impact on the public through its creative endeavors over the past 2 years specifically that contribute to shaping the arts and cultural landscape in our city. So when let's say there's an arts group in the city that you want to be nominated and submitting through, you would demonstrate in the application the, quantitative public impact. So it would be numbers, reports, what has been the audience, what has been, testimonials that you've heard from people. Anything can show the strong impact that has been made in the past 2 years to the jury. You can also show, events or photos and things like that over the past 2 years that the group has done. And that would be great to show the jury for this type of award. And this group will also receive a MARTY award, which is right there. Okay, and then the next one of this category is the Festival of the Year Award. So this is for, kind of as it says in the title, it's for an arts or culture festival that features Mississauga artists and presents various art forms to a large and diverse audience. So they must have been operated in the past 3 years. They must take place in Mississauga and be open to public audiences. So a good example of this can be, as we know, there's lots of festivals at Celebration Square. It could be a festival that was there recently, and they featured local Mississauga artists and performers, and it was open to the general public. So when the jury is looking at these specific type of festivals, they really do want to see an example of the type of relevance and giving back to its community. And so making sure that that is relevant in the applications is super important, as it is, I've mentioned, with all of these awards. And showing, but specifically at festivals, numbers is huge. Photos, videos is really, really great because you can see the impact that has been developed over time. All those types of things is really great with this type of award. The next one is a Lifetime Achievement Award. So this award is for individuals like total body of work and overall career achievement in the arts in Mississauga. This would be, history of 20 or more years. There has to be an evidence for the influence and the impact for others through the work that they've done over their lifetime. This can be, we take nominations from a variety of different people. It can be artists or arts educators, for example, is another one. But, people who've given back in their groups and their communities, stuff like that is the people we'd be looking for with this type of award. And they will also receive a MARTY award as well. Next is our Hazel McCallion Volunteer of the Year Award, also kind of clear in its title. We want to see exceptional volunteerism in the arts. This can be an administrator that has given back on multiple boards, arts groups giving back their time to really develop their communities in their specific arts interests, right? The people who have, worked at festivals, worked at events, given back their time, making sure that they're involving emerging groups as well, like those types of people, the people who have made a massive impact, is some people we'd be looking for this awards, and we're more than welcome to nominations for this category if you have a specific person in mind for this. And this category will also receive a MARTY award as well. Any other? Okay, great. Okay, so now we're going to get into kind of the submission requirements that we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but this talks a little bit more details. So all the applications must be submitted through the appropriate web forms, which I'll kind of, talk about more in a minute. They're all located at macarts.ca/MARTYS. So what we recommend when you get to the stage of like, okay, I think I've decided on this specific discipline and this award, I have gone through the guidelines and it looks like I qualify for XYZ. I would like to apply. Great. Lovely. So what we're going to do now is that you can go through, and when you go through the guidelines, I believe it's on page near the end of the document, there's a full list, and I'll show you quite soon, I'll show you the list has every single type of information that you'll need. So it has like contact information, you'll need 3 work samples, you need a CV, you need the info of your reference. What we recommend is using that list in the guidelines to compile all your material separately into either a Word document or a folder on your desktop or Google Drive, something like that. Compile everything there so that when you get to the web form, all you're doing is submitting it through. You're just going, yep, CV here, boom, like work samples here, right? You have everything ready to go ahead of time, rather than you're trying to do the web form and going, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I needed this document. Okay, now I got to go back here. You have one chance to submit this through the web form. It does save, but just as we know, tech things happen. We just recommend having everything ready ahead of time. You can put a submit through and then boom, stress-free, right? All done. Yeah, as we mentioned here, like you only have one option to read your answers. So just make sure you have everything ready ahead of time. Great. So now I will get through a couple frequently asked questions, and then after this, we'll allow a little bit of time for Q&As if anybody has any questions. If not, then I'll probably just keep going. So what is a professional artist? So MAC supports the definition from Canada Council for the Arts, and I'll read it here. A professional artist is an artist who has specialized training in the artistic field, not necessarily in an academic institution, is recognized as professional by his or her peers, artists working in the same artistic tradition, is committed to devoting more time to artistic activity, if possible financially, and has a history of public presentation or publication. So I hope that clarifies for you what a professional artist looks like. Next is, what if my artistic work falls into multiple categories, which one should I choose? We already kind of covered this, but we recognize that many artistic forms could fit into more than one category. And we recommend, as we mentioned earlier, selecting one that you most identify with and have the most work samples for. Next is, what if my work samples have multiple arts involved? We did touch on this a little, but I'll, clarify again. Make it clear what your role in the submitted work sample is to the jury, i.e. the work sample is a clip of a movie you directed, as we talked about, mention in your work samples that this is what you've done. This is also very helpful as well for something more visual artists related to. You may think that you're submitting a painting and it's very clear that you've done the painting. But if you put in your work document and say, this is the title of the piece, these are the dimensions, here is the, description about the piece. What is its relevance? Where was the inspiration from? Those types of things. It's very helpful for the jury to go through and go, oh, this is the piece. This is a description. This piece, this is a description. And they have more of a knowledge of your work and you as an artist, right? So very helpful for all disciplines, I would say, is doing something like that, is submitting your work and then submitting a description as well with it. Okay. Already went into this a little bit, but I'll clarify again. Basically, we'll give you constructive, we actually will give constructive feedback on the quality, but we're not going to give you the feedback that has been provided by the jury. We'll give you overview of what components are in it. And the jury decisions are confidential and final. And who can be my reference? Okay, so that's a good question. So as part of the nomination, we do require contact information for one reference. This could be the just basically the name and the email contact and the phone number as well of a person that can vouch for you on your behalf. So this can be a mentor for you. This can be let's say another artist you work with in a band or orchestra, right? Like this can be a teacher, right? Or, a professor or something along those lines, especially for emerging. That's quite common that we see is like a teacher or professor. Somebody like that can vouch for your behalf. I would not recommend family per se, just because we want somebody that can talk about, like a professional, like artistic development here. Somebody along those lines is who we recommend for sure. Okay. We have a contact. Yes, you will be contacted in May of 2025. What happens if you're selected? So what will happen is that if you're selected, you'll be contacted. And then you'll be told to submit through the finalist exception form that we sent to all finalists. And then if you're not already a member of MAC or your membership has lapsed, you would then be required to either register or renew your membership. So it's at macarts.ca/membership. And then all finalists are required to attend the MARTY Awards celebration on June 19, 2025. And also we will be having a finalist cocktail party in May as well, so that all the finalists are encouraged to attend to. Who should I contact regarding any questions and inquiries I have about my nomination? So after review all the guidelines, if you do have any further questions or any clarification on anything, you can send it to martyawards@macarts.ca. Please do allow up to 2 business days for a response. So, for example, if you're sending an email to that on the Saturday before the deadline on the Monday, you might not be able to get to it on time, right? So make sure you're going through this early and then submitting early, and then that way, no stress, right? Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Coffee? No?
Okay. I was able to answer the question in the chat for you. Actually, you answered it.
Oh,
next slide.
Okay.
You can read in the chat. So okay.
Great. Okay. So what's next? Oh, I see chat. 1 second.
That's a great question.
Does work sample have to be... Okay, so I'll read this out loud. Does the work sample have to be from a specific time period? Let's say it's a painting from 2023 or a photograph from 2021. Would that still be eligible? Okay. So what the jury is looking at is over the past 2 years. So let's say 2023 would still count. That's in the past 2 years. They're looking for work samples from that period. So what I have seen is some people have shown a work sample that was really super relevant for their career, right? And that they still want to put forward. I would not encourage that for all your work samples, right? Like I would put you have up to 5. So I would put like 3 to 4 is from the past 2 years, and you can maybe put 1 as like, this is from the past, this was maybe 2021 or 2022, right? Don't do anything past like I'd say 3, 4 years, I would say, just because the further you go back, the less like relevance it is to what they're reviewing and jurying. So I'd say try to stick in the 2 to 3 year range is best, right?
Yeah. Unless there's something from 10 years ago that won you the Governor General Award of Canada and it's relevant, or
exactly
featured at the National Gallery.
Yeah, like if there's something like that that's very relevant and very, impactful for you and shows the kind of progression, then yes, please do include that. Of course, we wouldn't want to something like that. You would not want to include, right? So, very good question. Great. Let me see. Let's go back here. And if anybody does have any other questions, please do add them to the chat. I'll answer them as I pop up. If there's no other ones, I'll probably just keep going because we have quite a few more things to cover. So now I'm going to review a kind of MARTY nomination form. Let me stop sharing quickly. Yeah. Okay, so this is a PDF version, but it's just so I can show you because it's going to look pretty much the same, right? So what this, and I'll pop it up on the web form. So what it's going to look like is here. So you're going to pop this open and it's going to give you a little bit more details that are already in the guidelines. And then it's going to go through and ask you for nominee contact information, right? So this would be as a person we've talked about, mentors, something along those lines so that can vouch for you. You put their details in here, and nominee email, that would be your details and address and all the contact details, right? So then this is also when you add here if you're a member of MAC or not. And again, you do not need to be a member of MAC if you're applying, but if you're a finalist, then you have to be a member. Putting your direct birth date, this is relevant for people who are applying for the emerging categories. And we just need that in details to confirm your birth date and if you're 18 years of age or older. Then this would be selecting down here from the artistic category. So it would be dance, visual art, selecting which one you're applying to. I'm showing you the example of the one that is for Artistic Excellence Awards because that's the one we have the most nominations for. Community arts groups, awards like the Festival of the Year, things like that. Very similar types of web form, but it just might not include 18 years of age, that kind of thing. It's very similar examples that we'll need. And then you would put here if you're emerging or established. Please make sure that you do this properly. We've had problems in the past that some people who accidentally put emerging, but they're actually established. So make sure that you're double checking these things as you go through because things happen, right? Reference information, actually, sorry to clarify. So the beginning would be your information, right? This would be your details. And then as you go on, this is the reference. So this is where actually you would put it through. And that same contact info as earlier. So this is when now you get into artistic support materials. This is all the work samples we were talking about, CVs, bios, things like that. So this would be a short artist bio. So this is like 50 words or less. Again, another example why we say put in a Word doc or something, because then you can actually kind of confirm, oh, okay, this is 50 words or less. Copy and then put it here and then no issue, right?
Spell checker.
And spell checker. And Sue says real quick, spell checker, Grammarly, your best friends, right? Yeah. For artist biography, this is the longer form one. So this would be like up to a page. This is more of like the details of like everything that you've done. This is more of something we can use for like promos or their programs we have on the tables for the arts awards, things like that. This is your CV or resume. This would be a list of all your accomplishments. So let's say, as a lot of artists do, they have a 9 to 5, potentially it's a corporate, and then they have their artistic stuff on the side. Submit your artist one. We do understand that a lot of people, work in other jobs and roles and stuff, but submit your relevant artist CV, right? Because that other type of CV is not relevant to what the jury is looking at. So please do submit that. Headshot, please submit that through. And then they'll be used for promotional purposes. So make sure it's a high quality one and not a, very small one. So this didn't pop here, but basically it'll have options here to put your website and social media links in as well. Please do submit them as a full link rather than just your tag, because if you just put like at Sam or whatever, it won't pop up as a full link. Please do put your full hyperlink in there. And then now is the work samples period. So we talked about this earlier. It's 3 to 5 maximum work samples. You can submit links to works online. They can be documents or a combination of both. And the jury will not review additional work samples, so no more than 5. And also, very important note here is that inaccessible documents will not be considered by the jury. So if you're submitting links that are to a Google Drive, make sure that they're accessible, because if they're not, it's not there. We can't see it. So don't make sure. And also, if you're submitting to, let's say, Vimeo or something that's password protected, make sure to provide us the password so that we can access it. Here's an option where you can upload the work samples. And then this is going to be the space where there'll be links where you can put in Tyler achievements and things like that. This, and then the section for artist statement, integration of works presented. So this is what I talked about earlier, where you would put in details of like, what is the work samples that you're providing. So it'd be like, this is the title of this is the title of this, da. Also, your artist statement is, describing your approach, as I mentioned here, to artistic practice in the category selected and work submitted. So making sure that this is filled out properly is really important. Now we're getting near the end. You basically, so I have read the accommodations, I will, need to be a member. Yes, correct. And then I certify that all information provided is complete, true, and correct to the best of my knowledge, giving us the rights to use this stuff in promotional materials. So for example, we're going to have, videos on screen of all the finalists and promotional material for socials, things like that, that would use your materials. You would give us the right to just use those materials for promotional purposes, nothing else other than that. You would sign there, sign here, and then you're done. Yeah, so it's not too bad, but that is something that, as we mentioned earlier, is making sure that you have things ready to go ahead of time. So let me pull up the slide again here. Okay, so next steps. So you would go through all the guidelines that we talked about. You've reviewed this info session. Great, very ahead. Once you're ready, then you would go and submit to the forms as you see here, and submit your nomination through before the deadline. Great. To go back to this, the main deadline is April 14th, 2025 at 5 p.m. No late incomplete submissions will be accepted or considered, and there'll be no deadline extensions. So making sure that you submit for a deadline is super important. And then all the other details about announcements is here. And that's pretty much it right now. What I would like to quickly share, and if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. While I do this, I do want to just show you what the website looks like, so you can get a sense of what that is. So this is what our website looks like, and you'll find all the information on submitting a nomination right there. And then you go through, our guidelines is right here, and it opens it up right here. So this includes all the details, links, anything you need. We highly recommend reading this through, because it's kind of very helpful to you. And if you scroll all the way down, right here, here we go. So this has the list of the nomination requirements that you'll need to submit. So as I just went through, it has like, you'll need the name, you'll need the reference information, requirements, full artist biography, things like this. And then you would then compile this material separately. And then you would go, apply here, right? So this is what it would look like when you actually go to the web form and start like inputting all of the information for you. So that's what it looks like. And that's it. So thank you all for joining us. We really do appreciate you all taking the time to review this material. We'll be sticking around for the next little bit if anybody has any questions. And in the meantime, I look forward to seeing all of your amazing nominations come through and potentially seeing you at the 2025 MARTY Awards, which will be the 30th anniversary. And thank you all and have a great day.